The first thing I noticed was the sound of her bracelets, soft, metallic, like tiny chimes when she moved. The second thing was the way she looked at me, not long, not deliberate, but long enough to make me forget what I was supposed to be doing. She stood near the doorway, light from the window sketching her figure in a loose, warm outline. Everything about her felt measured. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear. The faint pause before speaking. Even her silence carried a rhythm I couldn't match. It was supposed to be simple, helping her replace a dim light in her living room. I told her I didn't mind. She said she didn't like strangers fixing things in her home. Maybe that was her excuse. Or maybe, somehow, she just wanted company. The room was quiet, too quiet, the kind that makes every small sound feel louder than it should. My shoes scraped faintly against the wooden floor as I crossed toward the switch. I reached out, trying to look like I knew what I was doing. That's when she said it. Not that one. Her voice was calm, but there was something else hiding in it, a trace of playfulness, like she enjoyed watching me stop mid-motion. I turned to her, hands still hovering near the switch. She was smiling. Not the kind of smile meant to reassure, the kind that makes you aware of how close you are, how far you shouldn't go. That one turns off the lamp, she added softly. Leave it on. I lowered my hand, and for a moment neither of us moved. The air felt different now, warmer, heavier. I could smell her perfume. It wasn't strong, just enough to linger, like jasmine caught in late summer heat. I tried to look away, but her gaze held me there. You don't mind the light? I asked. I like to see who I'm talking to. Something in the way she said that made it hard to breathe evenly. She turned away, slow, walking toward the window. Her blouse caught the light, thin fabric tracing the outline of her shoulder blades. I followed, not sure why. She brushed her hand across the curtain edge, testing its weight, then looked back at me. You're quiet, she said. Most men your age aren't. Maybe I talk better when I have a reason. That earned me the smallest raise of her eyebrow. And do you have one now? Her question hung in the space between us. I didn't answer, not right away. I could see her reflection in the glass, half hidden, her eyes searching for something I couldn't name. Maybe, I said. Still figuring it out. She laughed softly, a sound that didn't quite reach her eyes. For a heartbeat, she looked younger, lighter. Then it was gone. The lamp flickered faintly behind us, its glow painting her skin in gold. My hand brushed hers when she passed me a screwdriver, and neither of us moved it away fast enough. Her fingers were warm, smooth. The kind of touch you notice twice, once when it happens, and again when it doesn't stop. There was a moment, too long, too quiet, where it felt like the whole room leaned toward her. Then, from the hallway, a sudden knock on the front door. She froze. The smile faded. Don't move, she whispered, glancing toward the door. Her voice was low now, different. Careful. I watched her walk toward the sound, each step deliberate. The bracelets chimed again, faintly. And just before she reached the handle, she turned her head, looking back at me with that same secret smile. We'll pick the right switch next time. The light stayed on. The door began to open. To be continued. The knock had faded, and whoever stood behind that door had long since gone. Still, either of us mentioned it. She returned quietly, her steps softer this time, her expression unreadable, the kind of calm people wear when they've already felt too much. Just a neighbor, she murmured, closing the door gently. He forgets where he lives sometimes. Her voice carried a trace of something that didn't match the words. Exhaustion, maybe, or the careful distance of someone who's learned to protect their peace. I nodded, pretending to believe her, though part of me wondered who she'd been expecting. Later, as I finished adjusting the light, she poured 2 glasses of water and set one near me. The gesture was small, but her hand brushed mine again, just slightly, a fraction of a second too long. You fix things well, she said. Just light switches, I replied. That's more than most. She looked at me then, really looked. The kind of gaze that makes you feel exposed, even if you're standing still. I didn't ask, but she told me anyway, about the husband who used to travel for work, who stopped calling when he should have, and how distance was easier to say than betrayal. She didn't sound bitter, she sounded practiced, like she'd told herself that story enough times to file the edges smooth. I told her about leaving university, about not knowing what I wanted, about the jobs that didn't last. She listened without interrupting, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass in slow circles. "You're too young to sound that tired," she said. "You're too calm to sound that lonely." The silence after that felt heavier than the words. She looked away first. When she stood to adjust the curtain, I caught myself watching the curve of her shoulder beneath her blouse, the small rise and fall of her breathing. I looked away too late. She turned, catching the movement, her lips parting slightly in the kind of almost smile that says, "I saw that." "You stare like it's a secret," she said quietly. "Maybe it is. You shouldn't. You know that's not true." Her breath caught for a moment, I heard it. Then she stepped closer. Not much, just enough that I could feel the warmth coming off her skin, the faint trace of perfume and something more human beneath it. She reached out as if to brush dust from my shoulder, but her hand lingered. It stayed there, still, warm, and for a second I didn't move. "You make it difficult to forget I'm older," she said softly. "You make it impossible to care." She exhaled through her nose, half a laugh, half something else. Then she stepped back, breaking the contact but not the current. "You should go," she whispered. "You don't want me to." Her eyes flicked toward the window. The streetlights had come on, painting the walls in muted amber. "Maybe not tonight," she admitted. We stood there, words gone, silence stretched too thin to hold. Before I left, she touched my arm again, a light, uncertain graze that said wait and don't at the same time. "Next time," she murmured, "bring more light." I smiled faintly. "And if you say not that one again?" Her lips curved, tired, knowing. "Then you'll know I meant it." The distance between us never felt smaller. The room was still warm when I stepped out. She called me again 2 days later. Said the kitchen light was flickering. I didn't believe her, not really, but I went anyway. When I arrived, she was barefoot, wearing a loose gray sweater that looked too soft for the day outside. Her hair was tied up messily, a few strands falling near her cheek. She smiled like she wasn't sure if she should. "You came fast," she said. "You sounded like you needed help." "Do I?" She said it like a challenge, but her voice didn't match her eyes. The flickering bulb gave the kitchen a heartbeat, on, off, on again. Each pulse of light caught her in fragments, a shoulder, a turn of her wrist, the shadow of a smile that didn't last. "You could have called someone else," I said. "I could have," she replied. "But they don't answer this fast." Her tone carried that soft irony she used when she didn't want to say I missed you. I stood on the small step stool, unscrewing the bulb. She stood behind me, closer than before, her presence steady, warm, too close for comfort. When I reached up, her hand brushed my back, just lightly, like she meant to steady me but didn't need to. "Careful," she whispered. "You always rush." Her voice came from right behind my shoulder, too near. The flicker stopped, leaving us in half-light. I turned slowly, still holding the dead bulb in my hand. We froze like that, me on the stool, her looking up. Our faces almost level. Her perfume was softer this time, jasmine mixed with something faintly sweet, like the air after rain. "Better?" I asked, quieter than I meant. "Not yet," she murmured. The light buzzed faintly, a low hum between us. That's when the phone rang, sharp, sudden, breaking the silence. She jumped slightly, stepping back. The distance hit harder than it should have. She crossed the room quickly, answering without looking at me. Her voice shifted, careful, polite. "Yes, I'll see you tomorrow," she said. "No, I'm fine. Just home." The words were ordinary, but the way she said home sounded false. When she hung up, she didn't move for a long moment. "A friend?" I asked. "Something like that," she replied. Does he know you're— No! She cut me off before I could finish. And he doesn't need to. Her tone wasn't sharp, just tired, the kind of exhaustion that comes from protecting something fragile. The bulb was fixed, but neither of us moved toward the door. She stepped closer again, not as an invitation, but as if drawn in against her own logic. You shouldn't be here so late, she said. Then tell me to go. She didn't. The silence stretched. I could hear both our breaths, uneven, shallow. Her eyes flicked down to my lips, then back up. For a second, the world narrowed to that space between us, the air, the tension, the almost. I leaned in slightly, not enough to cross the line, just enough to feel her breath graze mine. Her hand came up, not to push me away, but to hover against my chest, trembling just slightly. Don't, she whispered. Someone will find out. Who? Anyone. She laughed softly, bitterly, the sound breaking before it ended. They'd call it wrong, she said. You're young enough to still care about that. I don't. You will. Her hand pressed lightly against me, a boundary that felt like a plea. But she didn't move away. The bulb above us buzzed again, steady now, bright enough to reveal too much. Her fingers still rested against my chest. Mine hovered near her wrist, barely touching. Either of us spoke. Either of us left. And even as she turned her face away, the space between us never opened again. The next time I saw her, it wasn't planned. I was passing by her street, or maybe I wasn't. Maybe I just wanted to see if the lamp in her window was still on. It was. And so was she. She was sitting on the porch steps, hair undone, a cup of tea cooling beside her. She looked different in the evening light, softer, almost undone in a way I hadn't seen before. When she noticed me, she didn't flinch. Just lifted her eyes and said quietly, You shouldn't be here. You said that last time, I replied. And you came anyway. So did you. That earned me a faint smile, one that barely reached her eyes but still lingered long enough to feel like permission. We ended up inside again. The room was darker this time, just the lamp glowing, the one I'd fixed. The air felt thick, the kind of quiet that hums under your skin. She poured a drink but didn't hand it to me. She kept holding the glass, turning it in her fingers like she was thinking of something else. He called again, she said suddenly. The man you heard last time. Your friend. He's not my anything anymore. The way she said it, too calm, too careful, made something twist inside me. Do you still love him? I asked. Her head lifted sharply, eyes narrowing a little, like the question had no right to exist between us. You think that's what this is about? I think you're afraid. She took a step closer, glass still in her hand. Of what? Of feeling something again. And you aren't? The space between us disappeared before I realized I'd moved. I could smell her perfume, faint and warm, jasmine, again, and something like memory. You make it sound easy, she said softly. It's not. Then stop looking at me like that. Like what? Like you mean it. She set the glass down, the sound sharp in the silence. Her breathing changed, shallow, uneven. When I reached up, my hand brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. She didn't stop me. Her eyes fluttered closed, just for a moment. Don't, she whispered, but it came out like a request, not a command. I tried, I said. I really did. She laughed, quiet, broken, and stepped closer, close enough that her body brushed mine. The contact was accidental, or maybe not. You're too young to carry this kind of mess, she murmured, her lips near my ear. Then stop making it mine. For a heartbeat, the only sound was her breath, warm against my skin, trembling. If I kiss you now, she whispered, it won't stop there. Then don't stop. Her hand lifted, hovering near my neck, but she hesitated, eyes locked on mine. The air felt electric, charged, inevitable. And just as the distance between us vanished, a sharp knock sounded at the door. We both froze. Her hand dropped. The moment shattered. You should go, she said, barely breathing the words. Tell me you want that. She didn't answer. Her eyes said everything else. The knock came again, louder this time. She turned away, voice low, almost breaking. Please, she whispered. Not now. I took one step back. And just before leaving, I said, next time, I won't stop. Her silence followed me out, heavy, trembling, and impossibly alive. It had been a week since the knock. A week of silence, of unread messages, of pretending I didn't keep glancing at that glowing lamp in her window every night. When she finally called, her voice was steady, too steady. Can you stop by? Something's wrong with the wiring again. The lie was obvious. I went anyway. She opened the door before I could knock twice. This time, she didn't smile. Her hair was tied up tight, her eyes rimmed with faint shadows. The lamp behind her was already on. You said the light, it's fine, she interrupted. I just needed to see you. That stopped me. Not because of what she said, but how she said it. Like it had cost her something. What happened? I asked. She exhaled. He came by. The one you heard. I felt something shift in my chest. He knows. She shook her head. Not yet. But he suspects. He saw your jacket. My jacket? The one I'd forgotten on the chair. He asked if I was seeing someone. She continued. I told him no. The word landed heavier than it should have. You lied, I said quietly. I protected us. Or him. She flinched, just slightly. You don't understand. If people find out, if he finds out. I cut in. What happens? You lose his respect? His money? Your peace? My peace, she whispered. The quiet that followed wasn't calm, it buzzed, sharp and uneven, like the air before lightning strikes. I stepped closer, unable to stop myself. You think this is peace? It was, she said. Before you. She tried to step back, but I matched her, closing the distance again. My hand brushed her wrist, she froze, not from fear, but from remembering. You can't keep pretending this doesn't exist, I said. Her voice cracked. I'm not pretending. I'm trying to survive it. For a moment, she looked up at me, eyes glistening, defiant, terrified. He's my ex, she said finally. But he still has a key. Still shows up. Still thinks I'm waiting. That revelation hit like a slow burn. It wasn't jealousy that came next, it was something deeper, heavier. Does he touch you? I asked, the words harsher than intended. She blinked, startled, then shook her head slowly. No. But he looks at me like he still owns something. And I hate that. She turned away, gripping the edge of the table. Her shoulders trembled, a quiet, restrained quake. I moved behind her, close enough that my breath stirred the loose strands of her hair. Then stop letting him, I said softly. Her reflection met mine in the glass of the window, both of us caught in that fragile in-between. You don't know what this could cost me, she whispered. I don't care, I said. I already chose. Her hand gripped the table tighter. I could see the pulse in her neck, fast and uneven. You think choosing me fixes anything? No, I said. But it means something real. She turned sharply then, too close, too sudden. My chest brushed hers. Either of us stepped back. Her eyes darted to my mouth, then away, trembling. You shouldn't have come tonight, she said, breathless. You knew I would. The air between us felt alive, trembling. The truth had changed everything, and yet nothing at all. Finally, she whispered, barely audible. Then stay. Just, not as the boy who fixes the lights. Her hand brushed mine, slow and certain this time. The lamp behind us flickered once, then burned steady, golden, unbroken. And neither of us moved away. And behind me, the light stayed on. The night rain came sudden and hard, drumming against her windows like a warning. She stood by the glass, arms crossed, watching the world blur in streaks of silver. I was behind her, close enough to see my reflection in the same pane. Either of us spoke. The silence had weight now, years' worth, pressed into the space of one room. "You shouldn't have stayed," she said finally. "You asked me to. I didn't think you'd listen. You knew I would." She turned then, slowly, cautiously, her eyes soft but unreadable. "And if I told you to go now?" I swallowed. "You wouldn't." Her lips curved faintly. "You sound sure." "I'm not," I admitted. "But I want to be." The lamp beside us hummed faintly, its light flickering over her skin, warm, golden, the way candlelight clings to something you're not supposed to touch. She stepped closer, and this time I didn't move. Her breath brushed my jaw as she spoke, low, steady, trembling. "You don't understand what this means." "Then tell me." "It means I can't undo it after. Maybe we're not supposed to." She let out a short, uneven laugh, eyes glistening. "You think this is simple?" "No," I said quietly. "But it's real." That broke something in her, a silence she'd been holding too long. She closed the last of the distance between us. My hand rose instinctively, finding her face, fingers brushing the edge of her jaw. Her eyes fluttered shut once, then opened. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she whispered. "Then stop being the reason I do." She didn't answer. Instead, her hand lifted, resting against my chest, over my heartbeat, like she needed proof of it. Her thumb moved just slightly, tracing the rhythm. The air felt charged, the kind that makes every breath feel borrowed. "You'll regret this," she said. "So will you," I murmured. "If I walk away." Her mouth parted, a protest, maybe, but the sound never came. I leaned in, not enough to cross the line, just enough that the space between us turned electric. "Say it," I whispered. "Say you don't want this." Her eyes met mine, trembling with a truth she couldn't hide. "I can't." The words were so soft they barely existed, but they filled the room. Her forehead touched mine, gentle, deliberate. Our breaths tangled, uneven. "I've spent half my life holding back," she said, voice breaking. "I don't even know how to stop." "Then don't." The storm outside cracked, thunder shaking the windows. Inside, we stayed still, suspended in that fragile almost. Her fingers slid to the back of my neck, a touch both hesitant and certain. I could feel her pulse racing against mine. "If we do this," she breathed, "we can't go back." "I know." For a heartbeat, we were nothing but air and nearness, two people caught in the quiet truth of wanting. She tilted her head, closing the final inch. And just before our lips met, she whispered, "Turn off the light." My hand found the switch. The room fell dark. And for the first time, either of us hesitated. Morning came quietly, soft light spilling through her curtains, touching everything like it was afraid to wake us. She was already up, sitting by the edge of the couch with a blanket over her shoulders. I watched her for a moment before she realized I was awake. When she turned, her smile was small, shy, almost disbelieving. "You stayed," she said. "You asked me to turn off the light?" I murmured. "You never said to leave?" That made her laugh, soft, real, the kind of sound that feels like an exhale after a long silence. Neither of us spoke for a while. There wasn't much left to say, only the quiet rhythm of the morning, the sound of rain easing outside, and the faint hum of a lamp that no longer flickered. Eventually, she said, "You'll regret this." It wasn't a warning this time, just a habit she couldn't let go of. "Maybe," I said. "But not yet." She nodded, fingers tracing the rim of her mug. Her hands looked calmer than before, less guarded. "It's strange," she whispered. "For the first time, I don't feel like I have to pretend." I moved closer, sitting beside her. The air between us felt different now, settled, like the storm had passed but left something softer in its wake. "You don't have to," I said. "Not with me." Her eyes met mine, steady this time. "You think you know what that means?" "No," I admitted. "But I'd like to find out." She smiled, faintly, beautifully, and leaned her head against my shoulder. For a while, we just stayed like that. No words. No hurry. Just two people who had run out of ways to pretend they didn't care. Her hand found mine, slow, searching, and when our fingers finally laced together, she sighed like she'd been holding that breath for years. "You're still too young," she said gently. "Maybe that's why I still believe in second chances." That made her laugh again, a soft sound that warmed the room more than the morning sun. "You always find a way to say the wrong thing that sounds right," she said. "You always hear it that way," I replied. She turned toward me, eyes shining in the soft light. Her lips brushed my cheek, barely, a quiet promise more than a kiss. "We'll take it slow," she said. "We already didn't," I whispered back. Her laughter lingered in the air, easy and unforced this time. And when she leaned in, resting her forehead against mine, I felt everything we hadn't said settle into something steady, something real. "You fixed more than the light," she said softly. I smiled. "You just stopped turning it off." Outside, the rain had stopped. The world looked clean again, like it had given us permission. We sat there, side by side, hands intertwined, the lamp glowing steady beside us. No secrets. No fear. Just the quiet truth that somehow, in all the wrong ways, we'd found something right.